I'm sure you're all giddy already. I figure it's probably time I start looking at some of these vintage computers because I got too many projects and the number of them is not going to dwindle until I start making them dwindle. So I guess we better start looking at some things and looking at some of the interesting ones, and this certainly qualifies. This is probably somewhat of a rare beast. I don't think I know that I have not seen another one of these before. Oh, looks like a little crack up there. That's unfortunate. But anyway, this is a Corona Data Systems, or Core Data, model CS40, all-in-one computer. The design kind of reminds me of the Macintosh SE, which this is from 1987, so that would certainly make sense. The Macintosh SE was around at that time. Almost like a prototype Macintosh SE, but the timelines don't really line up. You can see it's a little bit yellowed. It's got a built-in display, which tilts and... it doesn't swivel, it just tilts. You can swivel the whole computer, but... there it is. This is actually a green monochrome display. And it is a high persistence monochrome display. Not quite as high as the 5151 IBM monitor was, but it's certainly perceptible. There's the power switch on the front there, as well as a contrast and brightness. Contrast control's a little dirty, but they both work. This is the original configuration, 2 floppy drives here. I believe that both of these are 360K. They're not 1.2 meg drives, but I could be wrong on that. Something you will not see anymore is a front-mounted keyboard port. Now, of course, these days with USB keyboards you can plug them in the front, but this was a popular thing to do back in the day, and then it just kind of fell out of favor once PS2 ports really took off. Also on the front there you can see a reset switch. If we take a look, you can see that this is very definitely an all-in-one design, and something they probably should have done is added a bit of a handle, because this thing is rather difficult to carry. It's not exactly lightweight. I don't remember what it weighs, but I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 pounds, 30 to 40 pounds. There you can see the information plate there, manufactured June of 1987. Made in Korea. There's the power supply. This is almost like a standard clone PC with a monitor on top of it. Monochrome monitor. Just with a case that's, like I said, a case that's all in one, which kind of almost lends itself to the whole prototype deal, but it's not a prototype. This is a finished product. You get 4 ISA slots, one of which is a modem, as you can see there. That's a screw. There's a speed switch for turbo functionality, either 8 MHz or the standard 4.77. Parallel, serial. This switch down here is color mono, because there is a video port right there. You could plug in an external color monitor, switch that to color, and it would go to the external monitor. I don't think you can run both of them at the same time, but maybe you can. I did not get the original keyboard with this, so I'm just using this random keyboard here that has got the ability to switch it into XT mode, because that's what this is at the base of it all. It's an 8 MHz 8088 Turbo XT clone. So you can't use an AT keyboard with this as far as I know. And like I said, those are both 360K floppies. It's been a long time since I've had a dual floppy machine that did not have a hard drive. So it's a little bit limiting, but it's not like I really cared that much. This isn't going to be a primary use computer, and I'd like to keep this all original and in as good a condition as I can. See a warning up there to not open it. We are going to open it, obviously, on this video, but we'll do that later. So far, I've not had any explosions with this. Sometimes you got to be wary with these older computers because you don't know how long they've been sitting. And of course, some of these have got what they call REFA capacitors in them, the suppression caps on the line that are always energized, and those tend to blow up rather violently these days. We'll go ahead and we'll hit power, and watch this thing start up. I've got it in the turbo mode, 8 megahertz. Hear it beep. Screen starts to come to life. Up-to-date technology. 8088 ROM. You can see 8 megahertz. Yes, both of those are 360K floppies. There are 2 serial ports. I'm guessing that one of them is the modem. And it says cannot boot. Because obviously this has no hard drive, we need to find a boot floppy. Fortunately, I got just the thing for that. Here is something else that you certainly will not see every day. I have a full set of system disks for this machine. So we'll go ahead and we'll just grab one here. I don't know if this has ever been opened. No, it has. Let's see. Software non-disclosure agreement. Well, I assure you I read that very carefully before opening this. So, Core Data DOS version 3.1. We'll go ahead and we'll insert it into the A drive. I have verified that both of these drives are functional. I don't know how many of these disks are actually functional. That one might not be. Well, it was working well earlier. Oh dear. I think I have lost it. Let's try Control-Alt-Delete and it didn't respond to me. Now, that's why there's a reset switch on this. This disk might be bad. It's certainly possible. One oddity you'll see is that it's got 512 megs of memory. Oh, sorry, 512 megs. Oh, here we go. 512 kilobytes of memory. And that is normal for something like this. 512 was certainly where it started. Then we got to the 640K. And oftentimes you would have to add an expansion board to get to the 640K. It would only take 512 on the system board. You can see it's gone ahead and booted here. MS-DOS 3.1. Resident device drivers. Command.com. This does not have a battery, so no date and time there. Go ahead and we'll run check disk. We'll see what's going on. No bad sectors. Created in 1986. So, test drive B. Here's PAL. Or, there's another version right there. Is that the same one? No. They're different. So some of these might not actually be. I think I do have some duplicates in here, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. PC Tutor 3.1. We go ahead and we can try that. Let's see if it works. I'll put that into the B drive. Yeah, those old school floppies. You used to have to lock them in place. Go to B. Alright, these are bootable, so I could boot them. So we'll just run tutor.exe. Every once in a while you hear a high-pitched whine coming from this. You can see, type yes if you got color or no for monochrome. Do you want to hear the sound effects? Yes, I do. Cordana PC Tutor. Comprehensive Software Support, Inc. Copyright 1986. Please enter your name. Hey, If you were paying me to do this, you'd have a point, but you're not, so... Anyway, you can pause the video if you'd like to read that. Press a key to continue. Show me the instructions. Alright. I know some people have not really used DOS before. Some of my younger viewers. So... this is a pretty standard thing. The only thing that I think is really interesting on this is number 4, removing diskettes from diskette drives. You're right. It doesn't do absolutely everything for you. Oh, that was a question. I didn't even read it. Oh, man. Alright. Now, these are questions, I think. So let me see. Pretty standard stuff. You can kind of see the high persistence of the display here. Pretty simple stuff. But back in the day, this was pretty exciting. You gotta remember, this is 1987. So this would have been somebody's first computer. So, let's go to advanced topics. Yeah, that floppy drive does sound a little interesting. Can't go forward. Well, I'll play with this a little bit, and we'll see if we can get out of this program. Actually, you know what? We can very easily get out of this. To Control-Alt-Delete, because it's probably not the most interesting thing ever. So, how to use a computer. A lot of my viewers probably know exactly how to use a computer, so I don't really need to go through that, even a vintage one like this. Could try the AT utilities, which I think is kind of interesting to be included in this, considering it's an XT. So, I don't know if these will actually work on this. Okay. Like I said, I know at least one of these discs doesn't work. AT utility. Setup. So this is for a newer system than this obviously has. Or newer system than this obviously is. PhD in it, I'm assuming that's for primary hard drive. Fast tape, I have no idea what that does. FT install. Yeah, well, anyway. This isn't an AT, so most of this is not going to be of any interest. And it's not going to really work anyway. So let's see, what else do we have? A couple different versions of Chordata DOS in here. There's a GW Basic. I wonder if that's got any samples on it. I think most of these are bootable. Oh yeah, it's got a couple. Does it have gorillas? No, it doesn't have gorillas. Let's see. We'll go ahead and let the computer play the William Tell Overture. That's pretty loud, actually. The nice thing about this, if I remember how to brake. The nice thing about this is that it actually has a real cone speaker. It's not one of the little piezo things that are in a lot of computers. Let's see if I can get out of this. I don't remember. It's been too long. No, that's how you do it. Just hit Control-Alt-Delete. So. Anyway, I think that's a good look at the machine. I don't think there's really a whole lot else I could demonstrate software-wise. Unless there happens to be something else in here. Let me see. Let me go ahead and put that back. I think I'm missing a disc, unfortunately, which is fine. I've certainly got plenty of discs here. Come on. Because now it wants to be recalcitrant. Here we go. There's some more PC Tutor, GW Basic, Form Easy, printer stuff. I think that's pretty much it. So I think that's all for the computer. On the software side, the actual running side of the machine. So let's go ahead and shut it down. I'll take the diskette out of drive A, and then we'll pop the cover. Well, it certainly looks different inside than I really expected it to. There's a lot of shielding material. In fact, you can't even really see much of this because there's usually a shield over top of all this stuff too. How to get into it's pretty easy. There's 3 screws on the back. There's 4 screws on the actual monitor itself. I didn't realize that it came out in 2 pieces. I thought that it was all one piece, but it's not. So that might be entertaining to put back together now. Hopefully not, but I guess we'll find out. And there's 5 screws holding this little shielding metal in place. Now, if you got to take this apart more than what I'm going to do, you might have to get a little bit more involved with this, because this does not really look all that entertaining to try and pull apart. So, fortunately, most of the work that you'd have to do is pretty easy to do here. You can take a look at the board. That, I believe, right there is the floppy connection. At least that's my understanding. And then that is probably, I don't think that's the power supply. It might be. That I think is actually what connects to the CRT. I'll have a look at the other side here. A couple of ROMs in there. And here's all the memory chips. I think you could expand this to 640K. Of course, there's 4 ISA slots. All of them 8-bit because this is an XT class machine, so they'll all be 8-bit. Rather interestingly, I did not expect to see a battery, but there's a battery there. So there's a real-time clock in this somewhere. That battery is obviously dead, and I'm not really sure what all it holds because there's a giant dip switch bank right there, and I'm pretty sure that that is how you configure most of the system. Rather than running a setup program, as was common with later computers, this does not have a setup program because it just simply didn't need it. Most of its functionality occurred on expansion cards. You know, technically, the floppy controller, as well as the I/O controllers, are expansion cards on this. They just happen to be integrated into the system board. So, although a serial port is usually part of the standard card of ports for a PC, as is the keyboard, pretty much everything else was expansion. So let's try and flip this around here. This might be a little entertaining because it's taken apart. I don't want to break it or scratch it up too badly. It's all steel, the whole computer, except for the covers here and the front panel. It's all steel. There's the 2 floppy drives. That looks like that would be no fun to try and deal with. So I was thinking about maybe putting a hard drive in here. I think I'm not going to bother. Let's see if we can see anything down in there. Probably not. Even with the video light. There's the AT keyboard, AT power connection right there. And I think that is the switch to go from 115 to 230, depending upon the region that the computer's in. But you really can't see a whole lot in here, so I'm not really sure how the monitor plugs in. I guess I'd have to pull some of the shielding material off, and I'm not really gonna do that because that seems like that's gonna be a pain. So I'm gonna put this all the way back together, and then we can wrap this video up. There it is, all put back together. Before I go, I do want to do one thing, and that is demonstrate the turbo switch. Really quick here. Just so you can see that the system is smart enough to know. I don't have the keyboard plugged in anymore, but it doesn't really matter for the sake of this demonstration. The way to do this, to put it back together, is to put the monitor connection back. And you can see 4.77. Counts out the memory a little bit slower. See, very unhappy about not having a keyboard, which is fine. I believe it's switchable. It's hot switchable. I don't have a program to really demonstrate that with, though. So we switch it back to 8 here, and then we find the reset switch. I don't know where it is. It's right there. Yeah, there it is. Like I was saying, the cover over the monitor doesn't have to come off. You just have to pull the base cover off. There's 3 screws for that. So, not as much work as I made it out to be, but certainly there. And that's pretty much going to conclude this video of the Cordata CS40. Very rare, very interesting personal computer. Thank you for watching, and if you have any comments, feel free to leave them down below.